Okay, wonderful. So thanks again for being here. Momentarily, I'll share a mirror board. So today we are actually doing something called event storming. I'm trying to find the screen share. There we go. And so what this is a method of, at least in today's first step, just to get an overview on various events that may happen in various domains related to conflict, right? And it can be and should be very broad. So more specifically, today is kind of like a big picture event storming session, and we are really just concerned about domain events. So on the mirror board, there's a little link here about what event storming is. In the email that was sent out, you should have also seen a video introduction, but this gives also some more info. So it's really simple in its sense and very open, right? So what do I mean by various domains? So Victor, by the way, you also got Corpus. So if you can admit some folks still at this point in time, that would be great. Thank you. So various domains, right? We have a domain of a conflict, or I guess a specialty or a role of a conflict resolution specialist. That can be a mediator, that can be also an arbitrator, various roles in the litigation system. That can be a military conflict, whatever it is, right? I don't want to impose like any certain limitations. I'll certainly focus on mediation primarily because that's what I understand best. But then also, if you think about the various events that happen in a mediation, right? And I give some examples or just an example in a minute or so. Similar events happen also outside the mediation, right? So what are the things that lead up to a conflict, and also potentially what happens afterwards, right? So these are just the things that we are capturing. Right. So today we have about 53 more minutes or so today. All we are interested in are this step one, creating the domain events, right? Later on, there's some terminology about adding comments. There's actors, right, who actually initiates this event, and we go from there. But today we're just thinking about domain events. So down here on this Wikipedia page is an example, and a lot of this is really software development focused, but it's not excluded. It's not limited to that, right? So we have like account created as a domain event, right? When a user signs up for a website, for example, right? The standard model is, okay, we have users, and the command would be create account, and you have an account created, right? And then there's kind of sign up view or whatever, right? So we're really just interested in account creation in this example, right? So back to, let's say, mediation. So we have this mirror board here. I created a bunch of stickies here already, as you can see. It's pretty big, this board, right? So what you can do is just, and we're just working with orange stickies right now because those are the domain events. You can just grab one of the stickies here, right? And then there's also certain short keys, drag it somewhere, put it on there. Oh, wonderful. Tuba is going to be joining us as well. So I'm just going to wait for a sip of coffee. And then if any one of you could also reshare the link in the chat, that'd be great if you haven't already done that. Thank you. All right, so a domain event, for example, in the context of mediation would be, well, for example, at the end of the mediation, right, we would like to have a signed agreement, right? So the event would be, for example, agreement signed, right? That would be one. And then this is kind of at the end of the mediation, so I'm going to move it on this line on the board more to the right? So this is, I guess, the Western-centric view of time, where the left side of the board is more in the past and the right side is more in the future, right? So on the axes. But then we also have other events, for example, right? So we might say, okay, we have the agreement is signed, right? And we can say, at this point in time, the mediation is concluded, right? And then we have other events as well that might not actually be in the domain of the conflict resolution itself, but that might be outside of it, right? So for locks, for example, we are looking at business events, right? The mediators is paid, right? We might look at reviews and other things. At the same time, also, we have some people that are very well versed in the social sciences, sociology, psychology, social work, also conflict resolution, the theory behind it, right? What are possible events that might lead up to a conflict in the first place? And those events can and should be on this board as well. So that's kind of the idea behind this. And you can also, of course, fill the vertical space here. So for example, we just work on the same board at the same time, so it might look chaotic for a little bit. We don't worry about it. We clean it up later, to make it more structured. But for example, what I can also see that on the vertical line, if we think this is the mediation line, and there might be some concrete examples as well, if you work better that way, we can also then put the same thing for arbitration, for litigation, for military types, military conflicts, whatever it is. We can all map that on this board. And this is the exercise for today. And we have about 49 minutes left at this point in time. I also created a bunch of breakout rooms if you want to hop in to a breakout room with someone and talk a little bit more about this in detail. So yeah, that's a task. Create stickies, put stuff on the board, and we'll see how far we go with this today. And then, of course, there will be a follow-up later. Any questions at this point?
Yeah, I've got one. Maybe this is shared with other people. It might be interesting to know while doing the exercise. So at the end, this is the first of a few sessions, right? And then at the end, we are going to have basically mapped all the conflict process. And once we have these results, what are we going to use these to?
Great, thank you. Yes, so why are we doing this in the first place, right? So the benefit for all of you, hopefully, is for all of us, right, to get a little bit understanding in the various domains, right? So this is like knowledge sharing here as well, but the bigger purpose here is also to really understand conflict at a higher level better. I say at a higher level, but we're working actually with very detailed granular events and granular data. So we can like zoom in and zoom out at any time. So this is what this event storming session is for. And a specific use case for us is in understanding conflict better. We can create better training programs. Through identifying also bottlenecks, like where in the process are potential issues, like I think Scott joined the second time. And then also create better products and services, right? So this is kind of going to be public domain knowledge, right? It's going to be all created through us, right? So, but yeah, better training programs, better products and services, and a better understanding of conflict overall. Yes, Alex.
Just jumping straight into the exercise, would you say like miscommunication is one of the things that we're looking for?
Yeah, miscommunication, right? And then you can identify what are the actually events there, right? So you can think about it like, because I think what in miscommunication, a couple of things happen, right? So there are a couple of, I guess, events, and you might see a cluster and you can label that cluster then as miscommunication. That is certainly something very interesting. Cool. I'll stop my screen share for now, and let's get started. And also for the domain events, try to write your stickies in the past tense. So looking at the domain event and assuming this is something that has already happened. And the reason for that will become more obvious next time in the step 2. The other thing here is that, so the purpose is certainly to map the current state of things, but then also, and this is probably more for Victor and myself, but also understanding or thinking about how things should be, like what other domain events should be happening, right? So, for example, I just added one, right? Parties reflected on the mediation, or maybe can break that up some more. And what that means is essentially to not just go through the motion, but after the mediation as well, what should happen there, right? And internally in our database, actually, we have it mapped as a reflection. It's not just a review of the mediator, even though there is some quote unquote rating associated with it, but it really invites the parties to reflect. So if that's something that you think should happen as well, you can put that certainly on the board as well. Maybe a little bit removed from the is state, right? You can again work with space there, for example, vertical space. And I also like some concrete examples. That is good too. I see Sebastian put on a lot of good examples for what might lead up to a conflict.
I also find it more easy to think about the causes in the beginning of conflict, because, well, not so much mindful experience in further stages.
Should we open some different alternative branches here? For example, in case the mediator doesn't accept the case, then we look back to a previous step.
Yes, just without the. So don't add the actual connections yet.
Yeah.
Just a quick question, because I want to make sure I'm on the right track. Hello, everyone. Because I joined a few minutes late. I did try to make some contributions, but I'm really unsure that if I am aligned with what we are trying to do.
Sure. Yeah, and I see your stickies. Do you have a concrete question, Tuba?
No, I just, I'm throwing some ideas by
Mm-hmm.
just judging by what all others have been putting over here. But I just wanted to make sure that this is productive and I'm on the right track.
Yes, I do. Certainly, you are on the right track, and your contributions are very valued. I would so for this first step in the event storming session, the stickies should ideally be in the past tense, so something that have happened. So, for example, assumptions. For example, I see as an example, assumptions are absolutely part of the conflict, right? For this step, we're trying to break it down a little bit more granular. So, for example, you could, and this is just one example, you could rewrite this sticky as party A, or the parties made wrong assumptions, right? So the past tense. So and it'll become more apparent in the next step, in the next session, why that is. Hopefully, because this is actually the first time I do event storming sessions. So, but yeah,
That's
definitely
very
on the
useful.
right track.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay. And then also I'll do some recoloring because it's going to be all orange stickies for now. I think the yellow ones
Oh,
are.
I'm sorry. I'm
Oh,
the
don't.
odd one out.
It makes it easier to see what you put on there. No, that's fine. Yellow ones will be later for actors, right? Great. And feel absolutely free to move things around. I see some places being a little bit congested, and there might be other stickies that need to go into the timeline as well. So feel free to move things around. All right, with about 5 minutes left, I would like to start wrapping up, acknowledging that people are still hard at work. So thank you for that so much. But is there anything that anyone would like to share how the exercise was? Was there anything surprising? How was it?
For me, it was pretty cool because I'm used to using Jamboard. And so this is more extensive than Jamboard. I was kind of playing around with it. It's a lot of new features, a lot of capabilities. So, I might try to steal this and try to incorporate it. So it was really cool for me.
I'm glad. Yeah, sometimes the tools can make a huge difference. And great, yeah. I utilize probably like 1% of Miro's functionalities. It's quite extensive, but yeah, it's very useful. And for some mediation, it's also something that you could potentially use depending on the type of mediation. There's some functionalities to embed it. So we're building also software, better video integration, so you don't have to create your own Zoom sessions. And there's also a possibility to integrate Miro as well if you wanted to do that. So I'm glad that's already useful. Anybody else would like to share something?
I think what is so useful is to, these platforms like this give us the opportunity to work together and build up on each other's ideas without getting in our way. Because if we were doing it in Zoom, for instance, it would have been less efficient, but we could do it concurrently. So I think it gives you the opportunity to make the best use of the time also. I appreciated it. And it's fun.
Great. That's wonderful. Fun is certainly a good component to have in all of this. Thank you. Yes, Victor.
Yeah, I would say that's interesting to see that sometimes we believe that one action only includes one step, but then someone else comes up and breaks it down to 5, 6 different steps. And I guess this is actually a challenge because most things we might be able to break down to a very deep level, but this might not be necessary to what we want to achieve here.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. Absolutely. I'm just, browsing over the immense body of knowledge that is already produced in this fairly short amount of time. That's it's a lot to digest, and I'm glad the 8 of us worked on this together. And the Miro board is open, so if you want to continue working on this and think about it some more, please feel free to do so. At some point in time, we're going to clean it up a little bit, have a next step, want to check in with all of you maybe over the weekend and see if we want to have another session sometime next week or so. But yeah, it's I'm grateful to all of you contributing to that, and I hope it's been fun and useful.
Great, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. It's definitely useful. And it's user intuitive, but I need to spend some time with it. Thank you.
Thanks, all of you. Some of you I'll see tomorrow at the mediation training. Some of you I'll see in 2 minutes at our next meeting. For the rest of you, have a wonderful weekend and talk again soon. I'll probably send out an email sometime this weekend and with next steps, so suggested.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
great
Fun to
weekend.
work with you all.
Have a great weekend. See you tomorrow.
All right, bye-bye.